So in this video we're looking at the different types of joints, and I have my friend Matt here to model. So starting with the immovable joints, and these connect the ends of bones by tough fibrous tissue, and the sutures in the skull, in the cranium, found between the bones of the skull are a good example of immovable joints. Moving on to slightly movable joints, two or more bones are held together here at a joint so tightly that only a limited amount of movement is permitted. So the vertebrae of the spinal column are a good example of slightly movable joints. Then moving on to freely movable or synovial joints, the ellipsoid joint here in the wrist, so the wrist is a good example of an ellipsoid joint. It's unable to rotate 360 degrees, there's only a limited amount of movement, that's an ellipsoid joint. Your saddle joint, your thumb, is a good example of your saddle joint. A gliding joint, the tarsal bones of the ankle are a good example of the gliding joints. Pivot, a pivot joint, a good example here is the C1 and C2 vertebrae of the cervical spine, the atlas and the axis. And then moving on to a ball and socket joint, your hip bone is a good example of a ball and socket joint. And finally the hinge joint, your elbow or your knee are examples of a hinge